Welcome, folks, to the afternoon session here. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about safe streets for all. Here comes Eric popping on with us. He's going to be one of our presenters today. Eric is with Fibers MetroParks. He is a planning manager there, and there's Serena hopping in as well. Serena Anderson. She is a planner with the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. They're going to share some information, stories, their experience with some really cool stuff that has happened in our community. Eric is going to talk about safe routes to parks, which many folks are familiar with. Safe routes to schools. This is based on that same type of program, but it is a little bit different approach and different target. And then Serena's going to share some really cool information about a new program that MVRPC is doing, and that she is responsible for, and share all kinds of really great, amazing things that are going to soon be happening in our community. So I will keep it short. We had a couple of little technical difficulties earlier, and I'll let them share more about who they are and as they share their presentations today. We will have some time for some questions at the end, so please drop your questions in the Q&A, just like we did this morning. You can also feel free to chat as well, but we're going to be using that Q&A as our primary place to ask and share questions. So without delaying any further, I'm going to invite Serena to share her screen, and we will kick things off.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody can see my screen just fine. Let me know if otherwise. And I do apologize for the delay. So my name is Serena Anderson, and the title of the session is Safe Routes for All. So in thinking through what it means to provide safe streets for all, I wanted to share information about concepts of equity and the importance of equity in planning, and how we as a community may rethink or reshape how to invest in more equitable communities within our region. I will be sharing about a new regional initiative and institution called the Institute for Livable and Equitable Communities, which will, in the coming years, create opportunities for community partners to come together to promote and enhance livability by taking intentional steps towards making our communities more equitable. As shared before, my name is Serena Anderson. I work as a transportation coordination planner at the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. I'm responsible for convening a council of representatives of transportation operators, funders, providers, advocates, and individuals who fill in gaps in transportation, focusing on older adults, people with disabilities, and low-income individuals. In 2019, MVRPC launched the Institute for Livable and Equitable Communities in collaboration with regional leaders by convening critical partners within the Miami Valley region to work together to place intentional focus on enhancing livability and equity within our communities. As a member of the Institute, I will work with key partners in the coming year to launch the livability aspect of the Institute and launch the age-friendly network, who will work together to promote age-friendly communities in the Miami Valley region. I will explain a little bit later what age-friendly communities is, and as well a little bit of the mission and vision of the Institute. Before jumping into talking about the Institute, we wanted to highlight and talk a little bit about what it means by the term livable and equitable. In starting this Institute, one of the things that we found was critical was being clear on what our definitions are and what our terminology is. So in thinking through what livable and equitable means, we generally think livable as place-focused and equitable as people-focused. And so as you see in the graphic in the center of this slide, you'll see a image created by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which shows that equity is about ensuring everyone has the exact same resources. Equality is about ensuring everyone that has the exact same resources, while equity requires distributing resources based on different needs of the recipients. So as you see, when approaching it from a place-based perspective and thinking through equality, we're going to give everybody the same tool. But in reality, everybody needs a different tool, and everybody needs a different system for their individual needs. So the important distinction is that equity should lead the work of livability. There are plenty of agencies, including the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, who is doing livability work, the place-based work. But the institute that was founded has equity as the forefront of the work and trying to truly define what is livable. So I wanted to share a quote that I thought was very relevant with this concept. It was written by a professor of public policy at Rutgers University. And the quote says, "If you think about it, there is no such thing as livability. Livability is an artificial construct calculated by experts based on normative ideas according to some philosophical system." So we need to understand that everybody has a different normative idea of what is livable. And in doing so, that brings equity to the forefront. So I want to talk a little bit about equitable planning and the importance of thinking about equitable planning in the context of place-based focus. So the planning process and the public engagement in the final design, equity should be involved in every aspect of that. So in talking through the planning process, the process is often more important than the plan. So by that I mean, what we mean is that the process must include that public engagement and should consider the aspects of individuals to create that final design that ensures that all the needs and desires of the people are matched. So planning with the people, not for the people, will avoid overgeneralization and assumptions, like as we seen in the graphic before on the previous slide, that all bikes will work for all users. And ensuring collaboration is key, which means working outside of the silo will help broaden our scope and our issues and build better efficiency in our systems. So in thinking the planning process through, public engagement is key. Go to where the people are and don't expect the people to come to you. And that means don't just check off a box that we have done a meeting, a public engagement meeting, but make sure that you go to the people to make it easy for them to share their feedback and their input. And nobody knows their community better than those who live there. So the voice of the community must be an important part of identifying those challenges and creating solutions. And not only do we engage before and during, but we should engage after the process to make sure that we are capturing the needs. And ultimately, the final design should meet the needs and desires of the people for all users, ensuring different perspectives are included in the design and different people in mind, and creates a place that's unique and representative of the community. And so I shared a couple of images that I thought kind of embodies those concepts. And so in the middle here, you'll see a Before I Die art project, which is in a number of locations across the US, but there is one in Cincinnati on 12th and Jackson Street. And the idea is to invite people to reflect upon their mortality and consider things that matter most in their life. And so in developing the one in Cincinnati, it was organized through a student art project. And originally it was just students involved in it. And immediately they realized how meaningful the wall was to others. It helped inspire people to comfort one another and to humble and humanize other people. And so this is an example of something that is not only a public project, but it is an engagement process by which we can hear each other and listen to other voices. And then the image on the right here is the Licking River Greenway Trail in northern Kentucky, featuring 17 murals on the riverbank gate wells along the trail. And it was painted by a nonprofit agency called Artworks. And this was along the trail, there's a series of 17 murals that reflects the ecosystem and the people who enjoys its beauty. So The final design creates a unique place that represents the community. So in talking through what it is what we mean by livable and equitable communities, now I will share a little bit about the mission and vision of the Institute. So the vision is the Institute places an intentional focus on livability and equity, launching programs and transforming systems that create a community where all people can thrive. And the mission is the Institute for Livable and Equitable Communities at the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission convenes critical partners and is the central point of coordination for a long-term, multifaceted effort to address 9 domains proven to enhance livability and equity in communities. And so this institute was launched in 2019, as I had shared before, but it came out of a partnership within our community. And so MVRPC convenes these partners, but it is an institute that belongs to our region and is invited to create a broad representation within our community. And I will share a little bit by what we mean on the 9 domains proven to enhance livability and equity. So the Institute, I just want to share a little bit about the structure, and we are still formulating that structure, but this is the general approach by which we're moving. And so the Institute Steering Committee will oversee 2 initiatives, the Equity and the Livable Communities initiative, and those are separate subcommittees that will work together, but they will work together ultimately to achieve the mission and vision, even though they're separate subcommittees. And then there will be working groups, task force, networks that will fall underneath those initiatives. And overall, that institute will have certain common elements of work, including outreach, convening and coordination, research and education, policy analysis and policy change, technical assistance, and trying to identify sustainable funding opportunities. And of course, the Institute will focus specifically on our Miami Valley geographic region, so it will be local. So to share a little bit about the Institute domains, which is a part of the mission and vision. The Institute domains came from a framework that started out of a number of conversations within our community partners, and they basically will be the focus of our work within the Institute. And so the vision is that over the coming years, we will start to convene meetings and events centered upon each one of these domains, which are going to be focused on improving livability and equity within our region. So this will include different focus areas that we've kind of clustered together around topics related to our community, opportunity, health, and well-being. And so I won't break down exactly the definition of each one, but we do have definitions, and you'll find that in the link at the bottom of the presentation here. So one of the initiatives that will come out of the Institute that I will be focusing on launching in the coming year is the Age-Friendly Network. And as I had shared earlier, I was wanted to give you a little bit background of what that means. So in looking through our future demographics and where we are right now in history, we are discovering that we are changing our demographics. For the first time in U.S. history, we are expecting that older adults will outnumber children throughout the U.S. And regionally, we are discovering that older adult population is currently at 15%, but expected to rise by 2030, 34%. So that by year 2030, 1 out of 5 individuals will be 65 and older. And so it shows that we are currently experiencing a demographic shift, and that change in demographics we should be addressing and considering. And so from that, we wanted to share the idea of the age-friendly community, what the network will be doing, And some other broader initiatives that we could help encourage our members and communities within the Miami Valley region to get engaged with. So the AARP is an example of things that we could get involved with. So just to define what is an age-friendly community, according to the World Health Organization, people face increasing challenges due to the sensory and other changing physical events that aging brings. In order to promote age-friendly communities, we need to promote age-friendly policies, services, structures, and programs to ensure that physical and social environment are designed to support and enable older adults to age actively. That is to live in security, enjoy good health, and continue to participate fully in society. And so the AARP is working throughout the nation to engage and mobilize communities, share expertise, and deliver technical assistance to towns, cities, and communities through a network of communities who are working towards promoting this concept of age-friendly communities. And so this is an example of how you might join this initiative as a community, and it is a 5-year process. And it does allow you to join a coalition nationwide that's working towards this, as well as a coalition within the state of Ohio. And so some of the things that they do is they meet quarterly, they share grassroots networks, they mentor, educate, and collaborate, and work towards formalizing processes to gauge trends. So this is what our age-friendly network is going to work towards as we launch it in 2021. There will be quarterly meetings and funding opportunities to promote age-friendly communities. It will involve building a coalition of key allies and participants to establish age-friendly community objectives, coordinate with partner agencies around those objectives, create opportunities for communities to engage or to implement age-friendly demonstration projects, and initiate a process for communities to formally join the age-friendly network with AARP. Ultimately, this group will work together to ensure all residents can age gracefully in their community. So that's just a very high-level snippet of what the age-friendly work does and what the Institute work does, and we wanted to share how you might get engaged with the Institute as we continue to move forward. And this list is kind of like the low-level things, you know, how you can minimally get involved, to the more complex and more engaging ways that you can get involved. So the first thing I would recommend is checking out our website and learn more and read announcements about events and opportunities that are coming up, not only on our website, but on our community center, committee center, which shares all of our upcoming meetings and agendas. You can attend relevant meetings and events to learn and engage with the broader region. You could join one of the networks that we are in the process of building to share ideas and resources. You could become an active member of the Institute subcommittees to provide oversight and guidance and leadership to accomplish the mission and vision of the Institute. You could collaborate with others in the community to implement programs, projects, and policies that improve equity and livability in the region. And often these are programs, policies, and projects that may not one person leading, that is regionally. So finding ways to work regionally towards projects, or you can encourage or lead your community in an effort to become AARP age-friendly designated community within the next 5 years. And this is a 5-year commitment, so this is a pretty high level commitment. And ultimately, I wanted to share why this relates to cycling. And so I wanted to put the slide called Cycling for All. So how does this relate? How does the Institute relate? Cycling is not only a mode of entertainment, but it's a mode of mobility. Walking and cycling is the only mobility for most people across all ages and across the U.S. So if you think about somebody who's under 16, that is their only mode of transportation that's that they can control. And therefore, we must think of people of all ages, physical abilities, financial abilities, backgrounds, and so forth. And so I have pictures here of various types of cyclists that could be, different backgrounds. And if you think about people of all age, all backgrounds, all abilities, this is ultimately what we're trying to achieve within the Institute.
Thank you, Serena, for presenting. We're now going to kick it over to Eric, and he's going to share some details about some of the work that he's done.
Well, thanks for coming, everyone. I appreciate it. We were lucky enough at Five Rivers MetroParks, and again, I'm Eric Sauer. I'm the planning manager at Five Rivers MetroParks, and really responsible for really the main master planning and larger capital projects, design and development of those for MetroParks. But a few years ago, we were selected as, I think, one of 10 MetroParks nationally by the National Parks and Recreation Association to participate in a pilot program of really looking at safe routes to parks and really taking a look at this new program. And I think it really affected the way that I really was sort of understanding access and planning work for trail networks and access to parks. So I want to share some of that data with you and some of those findings, not so much specifically about the parks, which I'll use, but just as an idea of things to really continue to think about as you look at these situations. So if we can get this, there we go, slides to advance. So their action framework was really sort of how to really work around all of the ideas. So it's basically a cyclical program or cyclical process where you start with assess and figure out the issues, plan around those, implement that plan and sustain or maintain that with an engagement process that happens at each stage, making sure that you're going back and having conversations with stakeholders and users alike to make sure that that all of those needs and issues are all being addressed. So part of that came out of, and Matt Lindsay did a really good job, and I want to show you some of his maps that he produced through MVRPC. But the idea came out of the level of traffic stress analysis and the idea of typically looking at cyclists, that there's really several types of users and four primary users. Anything from what they call the strong and fearless, that will ride their bike pretty much in any situation, all the way down to a no way, no how. I'm not going to use a bicycle. I'm not going to use these facilities. And really what we're looking at in a lot of cases is the idea that we really want to hit facilities that will meet the need of really the 60% which are basically the interested but concerned, which are it really then gets the other folks, obviously the confident and enthused and the interest in the strong and fearless. But if you can get that percentage of the population that maybe just needs a little bit of convincing or teaching them how to use it, you're really going to be pretty successful in really understanding what those users are. And really taking a look at that is through the Manita Transportation Institute. They really then looked at 4 roadway classifications that took a look at 4 of street types, from stress level 1, which is pretty much a simple, very calm neighborhood street, all the way up to a level 4, which is going to be, connector roads, collector roadways, 40+ mile-an-hour speeds, with those 2 other sections in between, and looking at where people really are comfortable working. And what this really starts to take a look at is you take a map of the region, for example, and this is what as Matt Lindsay came up with by looking at the region. And he really, the ones that really show up here are the red, really kind of the red lines, which are the level of stress level 4 and level 3 streets. And what it really can see is it creates a sort of a fairly significant island effect. And what happens is that based on the user type, a user type typically will not necessarily even cross without appropriate facilities certain levels of stress level roadways. So if you get somebody that is in the in that 60%, they're going to have some concerns about dealing with a level 4, even a level 3 street. And so you've got to make sure that there's facilities in place for that. But as you look at a route, say from point A to point B on a particular map, the highest level of stress roadway that you encounter is what determines that level of stress for the entire trip. So as soon as you cross a level 3 street, that's a level 3 classification trip or a level 4 stress. So really trying to understand what those trips start to look like and how people are willing to use those. So even if you create, for example, our regional bike trails, when they cross a major road like a Wilmington Pike or a Burkhardt or some of these more major roadways, those are barriers to a lot of folks. So we need to make sure as we're really working on these safe routes that we're either making sure that we've got really high quality traffic lights and crossing signals, or getting under roadways or over roadways in various ways to make sure that folks are really comfortable getting into that route. So then the next piece of that is really then hopping into the safe routes to play. And really that's understanding how many people are really within anywhere between a half mile and a mile of a park in this particular case. And this is starting to look at the Five Rivers MetroParks system with our land holdings in green, and simply doing a 1 mile buffer here to start to understand what those access points are to our park entries. And so that starts to build these radiuses where we can then start to understand the demographics and the population densities and population numbers in proximity to our parks. So what's really interesting, though, in talking about it at this level, really kind of dialing down into more of a half mile distance, a typical population density where we look at a lot of these things are sort of as the crow flies concept. It's just, somebody lives within a half a mile of a park entrance, they get counted in that population density. But you also then need to take a look at it from a network analysis. So actually, how many people actually live within a half a mile route of a park entrance, so that they can either bike or walk or use some sort of transportation method besides the car to actually get to at least to the park entrance in that safe route concept. So what we did is we worked and took Sugar Creek Metro Park was a really interesting example. So if you take a look at our park and you look at a half mile buffer around the park, and you utilizing census data, you end up with almost 4,000 people that live within a half a mile of one of the borders of Sugar Creek Metro Park down there in Greene County. And what's really interesting then is when you actually apply the network routing of how many people then actually live within a half a mile walk or bike ride to an actual entrance of the park, that almost 4,000 people drops to 65 people. So that was a pretty shocking number when we did the analysis. And you can really see on the map here that a lot of the dense residential properties are up there on the north or the top side of the photograph, where the blue is with the network analysis going to really showing that half mile. You can see much more of a rural or open large lot sort of development, that there isn't connections and there aren't entrances to the park on those north side to accommodate those folks. So as we started playing around with it, we said, all right, well, what happens if we would add some new additional entrances to the park? And so we took that 65 people with 3 additional entrances to the park and boosted that up to 1,546 people in the park. So really helping with a planning method to really start to understand in a master planning process how to really affect access and safe access to our parks. So part of it was, obviously, as we mentioned before, is really conducting public input and trying to really understand what folks need. And we really engaged this one specifically over at our Wesleyan Metro Park because we had a great group of students in our Adventure Central program, and it was just a nice area to really engage and look at. So we put together a little community fair to draw the kids and the parents and the adults in to talk to us, and we brought the City of Dayton Police Department and the SWAT team in with some of their cool equipment and their canine, and brought some folks in, and we had some food. We had our Ranger department there with some of their vehicles and things that they use, and really was a fun little activity just to give the folks something else to come over and enjoy, and in the meantime we're able to really talk to us, which was really an effective input method. Then a big piece of this of the Safe Routes to Parks process is actually doing a site visit and a walk audit. So you start to look at either analyzing an existing route that we are putting out there to the public as a safe route, or if we're looking to analyze new routes, the piece of it is to actually get out and field verify that route and get down to the method. So, we did a walk audit in this case, but you might do a bike audit just to see what that experience is actually like. And one of the experiences that we really want to encourage here is making sure, again, as Serena talked about, and as Charles talked about this morning, is making sure you're engaging folks with various abilities, and whether that is physical or other disabilities to really take a look at, and from young kids to older adults as well, just trying to understand and really understanding and talking about what are those things that the group is seeing that may affect the usability of that particular route. And you document it. You can use simple just pen and paper to sort of like a Survey 123 device and software app. Any of those sorts of things work really, really well. But making sure that you're paying attention to that, as well as understanding where there's user-generated access points that the users are really telling you where they want to go. And so these are some examples. And one of the fascinating pieces is we had a participant as a friend of ours from the Access Center here in Dayton. And Melody, if any of you guys know her, is wheelchair bound, and she took part in the walk audit and really helped us create a really different understanding of the paths that we were looking at. But these are some examples of both positive and negative things. It's not only looking at the negatives, but for example, around Wesleyan, there's some really nice, beautiful neighborhoods and some tree-lined streets that really we wanted to make sure that we took advantage of in the route, because just they're pleasant places to be. But other things, things that you might not think about right off the bat, like a light timing might be too short. The crossing signal just doesn't give you enough time to get across the street in a safe manner. To things like the physical physical things like broken sidewalks or simply missing sidewalk connections as you get into these discussions. So we also really took a look at alternative transportation to park access, and RTA was one of our partners in this study. And they do such a great job of already having bike racks on the front of the buses, but really understanding the distances and making sure that our entrances were user friendly, and that we started really developing communication methods between our two organizations to help people understand how they can easily get to a MetroPark using the RTA system and utilizing some other ideas as we work through. So again, as I mentioned, making sure that we've got good communication, but really working with either both our facilities or RTA, making sure that we're either moving RTA stops and really making sure that there's pedestrian connections into the park, as well as ideas of potentially selling passes at park locations, so that somebody may be thinking the next time, hey, I don't have to drive here, I can hop RTA and get there. So here's a quick example of kind of what we're talking about. This is up at Carriage Hill MetroPark, and you've got Brant Pike kind of running north and south with Shoal Road going off to the west there. And you're seeing the yellow dash line is the RTA route, and the orange or the red triangles are the bus stops. And then there up at the top of the image is the main park entrance. So you can start to see by looking at density and the half-mile routing from the blue main entrance, you can see there's not a whole lot of residential access to that, although we've got a really nice connection to the YMCA. There is something we're really taking a look at. And so here's kind of a street view of that intersection of Shoal Road up Brant Pike, and the MetroPark is there on the right hand side of the road. So from that bus stop, you've really got a pretty nice fairly new concrete sidewalk to get up there to the park. But once you get up across the street, from looking at it from a walk audit point of view, there's really no there's no crosswalks, there's no lights. You're really expected to take on that roadway crossing by yourself. And the other issue is you look on the other side, there's no sidewalk or pedestrian facilities to actually get you to the main areas of the park once you're actually even in the park. So you've sort of taken your life in your hands of crossing Brant Pike, but then you've got to really navigate the park road to get on down in there. So lots of issues to take a look. So as we started looking at these issues from a master planning perspective, we're proposing a bike route coming actually over from Taylorsville MetroPark through the neighborhood, and actually utilizing the old Shoal Road right-of-way that still exists, and creating a crossing there at the light at Shoal Road that would actually create a nice pedestrian entrance and obviously much closer and shorter route for somebody getting off of a bus or a bike crossing from the neighborhood, really to get over to the visitor center and the main entrance into the park for a much better experience. So you can really start to see that by doing some walk audits and really starting to understand where all these routes are, that it's a relatively simple process, but it really makes it really necessary to get down on the road and really understand. So, getting away from the screen and the GIS information, which is a great place to start and to understand where the details are, but really ultimately getting out and understanding the physical nature of that. So, and we're happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Eric. And I am very familiar with the work that Eric has done. So it's it's good to hear more details about some of that work. And Serena, I'm looking forward to seeing more of the results of the work that you are beginning to do. Folks in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the Q&A. But I have a question right off the bat, and I know it will vary quite a bit, but for both of you, but I'd like both of you to answer. With this work, what would you say has been your biggest takeaway? And Eric, why don't you go first, since the work that you've done on this your project has it's been a while since that's been completed.
Yeah, I think the biggest, honestly, the biggest takeaway is just really making sure that you're always taking a look at a lot of different user types. That just because I'm relatively healthy adult individual, and I wouldn't say I'm probably up there in the up in that 1% that I'll ride my bike anywhere, but I'm not too far off of that. That I have to, remember that there's, as Serena mentioned in her presentation, that 8 to 80 concept of making sure that we're designing these facilities for really everybody. So if you make it comfortable for somebody that's 8 or 80 years old, then everybody in the between makes that work. And I think really taking that the step further of making sure that you're dealing with the planning and getting down on the ground with the users, or at least with a diverse group of folks that can give you that different user perspective, I think is probably one of my biggest takeaways. And we've really integrated that into our master planning process with a diverse group of folks in our agency. And I think that really makes the plan so much stronger in the long run.
Yeah, I would agree. I think as far as a model, and I'm biased, but MetroParks has done a really great job of seeking input from the public, and specifically from the surrounding areas around the parks. If you've ever attended one of the public input sessions for the park master planning process, we go, and I've been a part of many of them. We'll go to where the people are. And I think that we've gotten really great results from that. And I think, from one of my biggest takeaways has been that, compared to some of the other public input meetings that I've been to for other projects and other planning, where it's held in an office building downtown, or it's held, in a community center or rec center or public building that's not anywhere near where the facility is that's being discussed, you don't get the audience that's actually using that facility. So you're not getting the feedback that you really need to be getting. Serena, I know, your project is just getting launched, but I know that as you get ready to get this out there in the world, I'm sure you've learned a lot. Have you had a kind of a single biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I would say the biggest takeaway is partnership and being very strategic about it. So the intention of our institute is to capture projects that kind of fall in between the cracks of everybody. We can't solve some of these big issues, but if we come together, we can. And so I could say one example that happened right around COVID. We all discovered nationwide, and I know this doesn't relate to cycling, but it relates to solving problems that are complex, and how it overlaps into many different areas of things. So right around COVID, we all discovered when the school shut down that many of the children didn't have access to the internet. And so we all kind of came together, and we worked together with a number of partners to solve an immediate need to get access to internet for a number of students. And what came of that is a partnership among many different people, very technical people, the schools, the counties, and we solved one problem, but then we opened up a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is we've treated broadband as a benefit or something that isn't necessary. But now we're discovering, it relates to many other areas like access to healthcare and access to employment because many people are working from home. And so I know this isn't related specifically to cycling, but what I'm saying is that it relates to the fact that when you partner with other folks who are working towards certain things, you can find overlap in things that don't seem like overlap. And you can come together and solve things much quicker if you work together. And so that's kind of the vision and the hope of the Institute, is to keep solving those big, hard to solve issues by coming together and kind of hearing, what do we have? What's the problems? What can we all do to help each other to work towards those problems?
Absolutely. And I think to cycling's credit in the Miami Valley, I think that the collaboration that has happened is what has gotten us to where we are with having the nation's largest paved trail network. And now, our on-street infrastructure throughout the region is growing wildly. And if you're on the side of being behind the scenes and seeing how these things are happening, it is 100% due to collaboration. It is, county park districts, municipalities, other jurisdictions, even private sector coming in, working together, on a common goal. And I think that, it is all related. And what we've done with cycling in the Miami Valley, I think definitely could be spread to other areas of life. And I think that's, what Serena, what you're working on, I think is where that's heading. We got a couple more minutes. If there's any other questions, I will notice there was something in the chat. Eric, Josh King, who we were chatting with earlier, he's with Huber Heights. He wants to talk with you about getting that connection to Carriage Hill. So there you go. Collaboration right here, happening right in front of your faces, folks.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we're working right now with City of Vandalia, for example, on a joint effort. Same with City of Englewood on another project. So I mean, these projects just aren't possible single agency, as Serena laid out. I think that's an incredible piece, and I think we're amazingly blessed in this region that we actually get along and we actually like working with each other. And I think that's a huge benefit to continue to get things done and get things done in really creative, amazing ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank our presenters again. We've had a great conversation leading up to today. We had some really great conversations, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the work that Eric continues to do for MetroParks and what was going to come from the work that Serena is doing. I think it sounds like a really amazing program, and I've worked with MVRPC quite a bit on other projects, and I think that it's going to be very impactful for our region. Just a couple things to note. We've got 3 great sessions coming up. If you want to move to another space, I'm going to grab the schedule quick. Let's see, where is it at? Here we go. So in track 1, we've got at 2 o'clock, Trail Development Projects, Miami Valley Mountain Bike Association's collaboration with Huber Heights. Right there, some more good collaboration. Right here in track 2, we've got Diversity and Inclusion and Advocacy and Planning. And then track 3, we've got Bike Facility Maintenance Best Practices and Resources panel. And I know there's going to be some good folks there that are going to be sharing about some of the good stuff that's happened around here and elsewhere. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll have the closing remarks for the summit and announcement of the next host. So once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us in this session today, and thank our speakers, and really looking forward to hearing what else is going to come. So with that, I will turn off the presentation, and feel free to mingle.